Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to do is set up DHCP on an actual router using a Cisco router on what Cisco Packet Tracer. Check this out. Let me get myself a router. It doesn't really matter which type of version you're going to get. So here's a router. Here's the switch. Now remember, I cannot set up DHCP on a switch. So a DHCP cannot be on the switch. It could be on a layer 3 device, which is a layer 3, which means it's a switch and a router. But a typical switch like a layer 2, I cannot have DHCP on it. Let me go ahead and get a few computers. One, two, three, four. All right. Now let me make these connections. Let me just show you. So of course, straight through cable, going through all the laptops to the switch. In our last lecture, we actually did DHCP on a server. In this case, we're doing an actual router, just like what you have in a Soho network, right? Or even at work, it may be your router is providing DHCP services. And I'm going to use gigabit 00 to gigabit 01. All right. So by default, all the interfaces on the router are actually shut down. What I could do is this. Instead of using the command line, watch this, I could open this, go to configuration, go to my interface, turn the interface on, and give this an IP address. Watch this, folks, 100.254, and by default, I get the mask. So when I go to the CLI, it actually does it for me. You see that? That's how you could learn little by little. But I don't have DHCP on the actual router right now. So guess what? What number am I going to get? Yes, a PIPA, automatic private IP address. So let me take a look. DHCP, or I could do IP config release renew, right? And that's how I could see what number I'm actually getting. There we go. And right over here. Let's give it a few seconds. A people, all right? A people, 169.254, 169.254, as you see a people. So now what I'm going to be doing is, let me just open the router. I'll go to the command line and look at my configuration, right? And I could see that I don't have DHCP running on the router itself. So DHCP is not running on the actual router. So what I'm going to do is, go back to global configuration mode. I'm going to exclude the number that I just assigned to the router, which is 100.254, right? Watch this. 192.168, 100.254, right? And enter. Now I create the pool. All right, watch this. Let's see. Pool 100. Give it the network, which means it's going to give from the number 1 to 254, except for 254, right? Space the mask. And default router, which is default gateway, is 100.254, and DNS server is all eights. See that? Just like this. Then I like to save my configuration, right? Just like that. So if I go back, I could do ipconfig release renew. Watch this. Static DHCP, static DHCP. So if I check this out, I can see 100.1. Look at the gateway, folks. 100.254, and look at the DNS. This is perfect. 100.2, 100.3, all right? 100.4. If I want to test communication between them, I could just use the envelope right here. This is like the ICMP in the background, which is ping, right? Or I could open the command prompt and just ping. All right. Let's see. There you go. That's how you could set up DHCP on an actual router. Well, in our next lecture, what I want to do is I want to have more than one segment. You see, right now, I just have one segment. I want to expand on this and see what's going on over here. All right. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye for now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to do, I'm still going to do DHCP on a router, but I'm going to have more than one segment. In other words, more than one broadcast domain. Let me show you. So let me get myself a router. Let's get the same one as we got before, 1941. And let me get two switches. Watch this. So here's one switch on this side, the switch over here. And let me get two machines per each. One, two. 1, 2. See that? Let me make the actual connections. Of course, straight through cable from the laptop to the switch. The only time I use a crossover cable if it's like a similar device. So this is still a straight through cable. And right over here, gigabit 00, all right, to right over here and gigabit 01 to here. So each one has to be on a different network. In other words, it's a different broadcast domain. So what I'm trying to say is this side will be 192.168, let's say 100.0, all right? And this side will be 200.0. So they're actually on different networks. So if this device sends a broadcast, the broadcast will not pass through the router. Remember, the router stops the broadcast. All right. So the router breaks up the broadcast. So I have two segments here, or I could say two broadcast domains. In other words, two different networks. Watch this. I'm going to do everything from the command line interface. All right. So watch this. Let me just go ahead to my global configuration, get into my first interface, and give it an IP as 100.254 with a default mask of a class C. Then I have to make sure the interface is up. Then I'm going to do the same thing for my other interface and give it the next number, which is a different network, 200.254, and make sure the interface is up. I don't have DHCP right now. So if I want to do DHCP, let me first exclude, right, the numbers that I just actually assigned, 100.254 and 200.254, right? See that? Now I'm going to go ahead and do a pull for the 100 network, which is 100.0, space the default mask, and the default router, right, which is 100.254, which is the default gateway, and DNS. Let's stick to Google. All right. It's a free DNS server. Well, guess what? I have to create a segment for my next network, which is the 200. Look, I'm just hitting up arrows here. You see that? And I'm just switching the networks. And default router, which is 200.254, and DNS, which is all eights. I just configured DHCP for more than one segment. Watch this, folks. When I look at my configuration, I can actually see which ones are excluded and the actual pools. See that? But if I want to see, did anybody get an IP address? You could run this command, by the way. uh, Binding, I don't see anybody get an actual number. So when I hit the letter B, I just hit the tab key and it finished the command for me. So if I minimize this and I go to each device, watch this, and I do DHCP, right? Watch this, DHCP. Each one is going to come from its own segment. All right. Let me show you. Desktop DHCP. Remember, when you request an IP address from a DHCP server, you are sending a broadcast with your MAC address to the switch asking who has DHCP. So the switch is going to flood everything, except when it reaches this interface, it's not going to pass through the router because the router breaks the broadcast. The router does not allow the broadcast to pass through. Watch this, folks. This one got 100.1. Look at the gateway in DNS. This one got 100.2. Look at the gateway in DNS. This one got 200.1. See the other network, the other segment, right? This is perfect. And this one got 200.2. Look at the gateway in DNS. So if I try to test connectivity, I could reach from here to here, and I could reach from here to here. Maybe the first one will fail, but then if I try again, it will reach. So everything works as you see. Each one is on a different network. All right. And if I go back to my router, watch this, and I hit the up arrow and I see, oh, I could see which one's got an IP address and I could see their MAC address. You see that? So what I did in this lecture is set up DHCP for multiple broadcast domains. So one is for the 100 and the other one is for what, folks? The 200. So I have two different networks in the list over here. Well, in our next lecture, what I want to see is what is a DHCP relay? All right. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye for now. Everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. In this lecture, what we're going to be doing is seeing what's a DHCP relay. All right. So let's take a look. Let me get myself a router. I'm going to get the same one, 1941. All right. And I'm going to get two switches. right over here, one here and one here. This time, I'm not going to make my router as a DHCP server, and you'll see why. All right. Let me just put one laptop, two, and one over here, and I'm going to get a server right over here. That's going to be my DHCP server. Let me connect the cables. Everything is straight through cables. So watch this. This goes to port one. This one goes to port two, and same thing right over here. Port one and port two. And the server, I'm going to put it on port 3. So now this router over here, gigabit 00, will go to the one on the right-hand side. See that? And then I have gigabit 01 will go to the left-hand side. All right. Of course, I have two different broadcast domains. I have two different segments. So this side will be 192.168.100.0, right? And this one will be 200.0, 200.0/24. And let's take a look and see this over here. So I got 100 and the 200 network. I'm just going to put IPs here. Watch this, folks. I'll do it from here. All right. So it's easier for you. Let me go right over here, and this is going to be 100.254. And this one will be 200.254. Right. That's all. I am not putting DHCP services on the router. Okay, DHCP will be right over here. All right. This just has actual IP addresses. So watch this. If this is 200.254, let me go to the server desktop and give this, let's say, the DHCP server will be 200.200, and the gateway will be 200.254. And DNS is all eights. All right. And let me go to services and do DHCP and say this is on. Let's say the gateway that we're going to be giving the users out is 200.254 and DNS is all eights. Start number at 50 for 25 users. Okay. And save. Then I'm going to create another pool for the 100 network. Remember the one on the right side. All right. So this will be 100, right? And so check this out, folks. I have one for the 200. You see that? And I have one for the 100. This looks perfect. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and get an IP address over here. DHCP. There you go. 200.50. Gateway is perfect. DNS is perfect. All right. And right over here, DHCP. 200.51. Gateway and DNS is perfect. Remember, when I actually try to release renew, I'm sending a broadcast to the switch asking if there's a DHCP out there. And yes, the DHCP is on the same segment. It doesn't have to go to this side. But check this out, folks. If I do desktop, IP, and DHCP, this will get a people. And this will get a people. Why are they going to be getting a people? Automatic private IP address? Because I am sending a broadcast to the switch asking for DHCP. This switch does not have a DHCP. So when it hits this interface, the broadcast will not pass through the router. That's the job of the router, is to break the broadcast. Well, you're going to tell me, can we see it in real action? Yes. Let me show you. Look, I got a people. So it's not working, even though there's a scope for the 100 network. Let me go to simulation mode. All right. Remember the simulation mode? And let me open this device and static and DHCP and play. Look, check this out. It's going to send a broadcast to the switch. Right, folks? Watch this. It's going to go everywhere. And then I'm going to get an X over here. And this is going to say, well, let's give it a moment. Is it passing through? It's not passing through. See, X. Do you see that, folks? It's not passing through. It's like the broadcast is stopped. Okay. Well, I need to find a solution for this. Well, guess what? The DHCP relay kicks in over here, which means what is a DHCP relay? I'm saying since this side does not have a DHCP server, when these clients they send a broadcast, I want the broadcast to pass through the router by setting up a relay. I'm relaying the messages to the DHCP server. So check this out. Just one simple command. All right, folks. One simple command. I have to go to this interface, which is the one that I'm on, 00, which is this one right over here. And I run one interesting command, IP helper address, and I put the IP address of the DHCP server. Look at this, just like that. And now it's going to work. Well, let me go to simulation. Let me go to simulation, all right, and do static DHCP. Check this out right now. Take a look and see what's going to happen. So I'm going to play. So now it's going to be a little bit different because I did the helper address here, which means the broadcast can pass through the actual route. It's going to reach this side. Oh, there you go. Look, see, it's a green now. This is perfect. This is perfect. See, look, now it's going to the server. Remember in the previous one, it did not go to the server, which means now it's passing through. It's coming back. It's going to go where? It's going to move to the right, right? And then eventually these clients will be able to get an IP address. See that? Green check. This is perfect because I set up the helper address. So let's see this in real time. In real time, if I go to this machine, static, DHCP, look, I'm going to get it for the 100. There you go. You see that? That's what the relay is. Relay is just by configuring a helper address. When do I need a relay? Is whenever I have a segment that doesn't have a DHCP server, I have to do a relay on that interface to forward the DHCP broadcast to the actual DHCP server, which is 200.200. And that's what I ran over here just by running this command. Well, that's it for this lecture. In our next lecture, we're going to see how I could set up DHCP for multiple VLANs. All right, so we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye for now. Well, everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this section, what we're going to do is we're going to work with DHCP on an actual Cisco packet tracer. But check this out first. So I did open my Cisco packet tracer. Let me just open it again. I don't need the actual servers anymore. All right. Let me get myself a switch. Here's an actual switch. Let me just maximize. Get myself a few computers over here. Let's say a few laptops. Look at this. I'm just clicking, all right? What am I doing? I'm clicking on the control key, then the device, then I keep clicking. When I want to let go, I press escape key. Let me move this over here. Let me get myself a server. Let me connect the actual cables. All right. See, I'm pressing the control key. Now I'm not pressing anything. It's just the mouse moving. So I'm using straight through cables because a straight through cable connects what dissimilar devices. A crossover cable connects similar devices. All right. And here's my server. Look at fast forward time. What it's really doing is the spanning tree algorithm right now. I don't have a DHCP server. Well, let me go to the PC, to the desktop, IP config, and DHCP. And look what's going to happen. Requesting. It's like IP config release new. I got a people. All right. Okay, because I don't have a DHCP server over here, folks. Watch this. What I could do over here is a live simulation, which means I could open this IP config static and do DHCP. Go back over here. Let me just actually increase this and click on the play sign and look what it does. It does a broadcast to the switch with its MAC address to all the ports. It's checking who has DHCP out there, and none of them are actually running DHCP. I have access. You see that? That's how I know there's no DHCP. All right, so I can see what's happening behind the scenes. So let me actually close this out and go back to my real time over here. I need to go to the server desktop. I'll just give it a static IP address, 192.168, let's say 100 dot. I'll make it the same as before, 11. All right. And the default gateway is 192.168, 100.254. And DNS, let's say all eights. All right. I'm using Google's DNS. Close, and I go to services, DHCP on, and I'm going to say the gateway that I'm going to give my actual users is 254, and the DNS is all eights. Start IP address 100.50 for 25 users. All right. Default mask and save. So now when I go to this machine, I could do IP config release renew or just the following, and I should get an IP address. There you go. All right. Let me just show you folks. If I wanted to open the command prompt, I would go to the command prompt and do, well, look, see the font is small. Let me show you what I could do here. Options, preferences, font. And let me make the font 18. All right. So we could actually see better. Apply, close this out. Let me see right now. Command for now it's better. All right. So ipconfig slash release. Port is not using DHCP. Good status. That means I have to switch to DHCP. All right. So I would do ipconfig release, gets rid of the number. Then I do renew. It's the same thing as what I just did on laptop 0. So if I maximize, I got the next available number. Gateway DNS is perfect. So what I could do is go to this machine, desktop IP, open simulation this time, and show you how it works. Because now I have a DHCP server and play. Watch this. See, this is sending a broadcast with its MAC address, right? It's going everywhere on the switch. The others are getting X's. It says, oh, green check, I have DHCP. I'm running port 67 and 68, which means now I'm going to give you an actual what? IP address. All right. So this is actually good. Let me close this out and go back to real time. And if I maneuver my mouse here, I could see if I got a number or not. Oh, this is good. See that? I have a number. And if I go to this one over here, desktop, IP, DHCP, I could see the actual number. So all of them were able to get an IP address from this DHCP server. That's what I wanted to show you in this actual lecture. In our next lecture, what I want to show you is how can I have two DHCP servers or three on the network, and what's going to happen when I have multiple DHCP servers. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is setting up multiple DHCP servers, just like what we're going to be doing on the actual servers, which is similar to what we did with performance and fault tolerance. But check this out. I'm going to get myself a switch. So I'm going to click on switches. Just click on it once and click right over here. All right. You see this? And then I press the control key and I click on these computers, control key, and let's say laptop, click once, let go of the control key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to get rid of this. I press escape. I'm going to move the switch here. Now I'm going to get myself two servers. Here's one and here's another. All right. So I have two actual servers. And you'll see why. What am I doing over here? Let me get the cable. So I'm going to click on the cable connection and click on the control key and the straight through cable. Let go of the control. And now I'm clicking right here, just going from ports 1. All these ports are connecting to the actual switch. 2, 3, 4. You see that? And so on. And let me continue. And then same thing, I'm going to connect the server right over here. Let's say to port 24. You'll see why. And I'm going from fast Ethernet to port 23. It doesn't look like it went to 24. If I want to get rid of something, I click on the X here and remove. Press escape. Click on the cable, fast Ethernet to port 24. There you go. Now we're good. All right. Fast Ethernet, which means you're running at 100 megabits per second. Ethernet is like 10 megabits per second. If we see gigabit Ethernet, that's 1 gigabit per second, which is 1,000 megabits per second. I'm going to set up two DHCP servers. This is going to be my first one. I'm going to have them on two different networks, and you'll see why. So I'm going to make this 100.100. Let's say the gateway is 100.254 and DNS is all eights. All right. And I go to services, DHCP, turn the service on, and I put the gateway as 100.254 and the DNS is all eights, and start number is at 50. All right. For which ones? Starting out 50 for 25 users and save. So this is the valid DHCP server. A hacker brings in another server. It could be on a wireless router, but it has DHCP built in and sets this up. It's a different network. Watch this. Let me show you what's going to happen right now. 200.200, let's say. 200.254, and DNS is all eights. Services, it's like a different pool, different network, right? The hacker wants everybody to be on that network. And let's say the gateway is 200.254 and DNS is all eights. Start IP address at 50 for 25 users and save. So now I have two DHCP servers running on the network Can I guarantee that these devices will get it from the right one instead of the fake one? Of course not. By default, I can't because when I do an IP config release renew, I'm sending a broadcast to the switch. The switch is sending that message to everybody, whoever has port 67, 68. It's based on UDP, which is user datagram protocol. So it can come from either one of them. Let me show you. So if I go to desktop and I say DHCP, desktop DHCP, see that? I did a lot so you can see it's going to be coming from different servers. Desktop. It's like same thing as doing IP config release and renew. And same thing over here. And let's go back right over here. All right. Almost done. So if I maneuver the mouse, oh, this is coming from the 200, the fake one, 200. You see this? This came from the 200 also. This came from the 100. So it's like a 50-50 chance. Look at this 200. Look at this 200, 200, and what? 100. So some came from the 200, some came from the 100. So by default, if you have multiple DHCP servers, when you do IP config release renew, you're sending a broadcast with your MAC address to the switch, and it's going to go ahead and just whatever's available. All right. So it could either come from the second DHCP or the first DHCP. That's the bad thing about DHCP. Well, guess what? In our next lecture, we're going to show you how to secure your DHCP server where you could specify where it's actually going to be coming from instead of just like this randomly. All right. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye for now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, we're going to see how can I secure my DHCP server. As you saw earlier, I could actually contact either DHCP server, right? Well, because the way DHCP works, it sends a UDP broadcast user datagram, and that's not guaranteed on delivery. When I say not guaranteed on delivery, it just shouts out there and says, who has DHCP out? So it could be either server 0 or server 1. That's by default. That's a behavior of DHCP. So if I go back to these machines and I check and see what IP address I have, look, this one came from the 100, this one from the 200. You see, it's like a 50-50 chance the way they're coming, just like the way we showed you previously. So you could contact either one of them. And that's not something that we want because a hacker can bring in like a wireless router and they want everybody on the network to come from that DHCP server. And all of a sudden, you're getting all these tickets. Nobody's able to connect to the internet and you check and it's like, where is this coming from? Well, there's a DHCP server somewhere that is giving out IPs to your clients without your knowledge. Well, how can I actually put an end to that? Is by configuring something called snooping. DHCP snooping. If I configure snooping, well, guess what? I have to specify which port is trusted for DHCP. Then the clients will only contact that specific port that is linked with a server that has DHCP on it, which is most likely my server 0. Well, let me go to the switch. It's actually a command line. All right. This is the fun part. I do recommend you to get into Cisco. Watch this. I have to go to a mode called global configuration mode and I have to enable snooping, IP DHCP snooping, and I have to enable it for the VLAN. I only have one VLAN, which is VLAN number 1. Let me show you that. Show VLAN 1. All the ports are actually what? Or show VLAN in general. All the ports are a member of VLAN number 1, which means they're actually on the same broadcast. That's why there's only one broadcast, one actual network, as you see, right? So in our case right now, I configured snooping here, but I never specified which port is trusted. And guess what? These clients will never be able to contact either one of these. All right, let's check this out. Let me do static DHCP, static DHCP. So now I'm going to be getting people on all the machines. Static DHCP. Look at this. Static DHCP. Static DHCP. And right over here, static DHCP. Static DHCP. Right? Can you see that? Static DHCP. Now check this out. If I maneuver the mouse, all of them will be at people. 169.254, 169.254. Do you see that? Because I enabled snooping. And when I enable snooping and I don't specify which port is trusted for DHCP, then in that case, what's actually going to happen is it's going to get the people. Well, I trust this server. That's my server. And that's connected to port 24. So I have to go to port 24, right? And I do this command, IPDHCP snooping trust. I trust this port via DHCP server. This is the only port that I trust, which means I don't care who connects a server on my network, no matter what port in the actual company. The only one that's going to work is this one because I just trust port 24. Now, if I go ahead and do IP config release renew, which is same thing as what I'm doing right here, I'm only going to contact the right DHCP server, which is the one for the actual company. All right. Not the hacker's network. Static DHCP, static DHCP, static DHCP, static DHCP, static DHCP. See that? Just like this. Now, if I maneuver the mouse, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. Nothing's coming from the 200. That's what snooping does. That's how you could secure your network in terms of DHCP services. All right. Well, that's it for this lecture. In our next lecture, we will configure DHCP on an actual router. All right. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to do is setting up DHCP for multiple VLANs. In other words, different segments, different departments. Watch this. So let me get myself a switch. A VLAN is just a virtual local area network. So by default, when I open the switch and I go to the CLI, I could see I only have one actual VLAN. And all the ports are a member of all that VLAN. Watch this. So you see, I have the default VLAN, ports 1 through 24, and I have both of the gigabit ports. Well, what I want to do is the following. Let me just get a few machines. Let's say 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2. All right. So watch this. Let me go ahead and connect the actual cables. So of course, straight through cables. So this is port 1, and this is port 2. This is port 3, and this one is actually on port 4. All right. 5 and 6. And port 6. All right. So in other words, I want to say that this one will be VLAN 10, VLAN 10, VLAN 20, all right, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, and VLAN 30. So I want to have different VLANs. All right, watch this. So the first thing I need to do is create the VLANs, of course. All right. So watch this. Let me just go to my global configuration mode, VLAN 10, enter name sales. Let's say VLAN 20, enter name, let's say HR, and VLAN 30, enter, let's say name, let's say tech. And then I'm going to put ports, watch this, 1 to 2 into VLAN 10, all right? Ports 3 through 4 into VLAN 20, and ports 5 through 6 into VLAN 30. Right, you see that? Then I'm going to do show VLAN so I could see. So VLAN 10 has ports 1 and 2. VLAN 20 has ports 3 and 4. VLAN 30 has ports 5 and 6. And each one has to be on a different network. How can that be done? Of course, what I need to do is I could actually get a server, or better, get myself a router. So I'm going to get myself a router. Watch this. And let me get a cable from here, 00 to here. So I need to go to the router, make sure And right over here, interface, gigabit 0/0, no shut. See that? Okay. So watch this. What I need to do is there's something called a sub interface, or in other words, what I'm trying to do is inter VLAN routing, which means I'm going to divide this physical interface into sub interfaces. One sub supports VLAN 10, other sub supports VLAN 20, another sub supports VLAN 30. Then I could create my scopes. All right. This is not something I would say that you need to probably know. But the reason why I'm doing this, I'm just giving you every possibility of where you're going to be setting up DHCP. That's why at the beginning I did servers, and now I'm doing routers, and I'm doing inter VLAN routing, which means connecting between different VLANs. Because by default, if you're in a different VLAN, they won't be able to talk to each other. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let me go back over here and just show you what's going on. So I'm going to go to interface, gigabit 0/0 dot, which is a sub interface. Okay, I'm going to do the first one as 10, and I'm going to link this with VLAN 10. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to give it an IP address, which is 10.254. See this? And I'm going to say, oh, look at this. Is already configured part of this sub interface. Okay. So in other words, it wants me to tell it like which VLAN is linked to. So I need to encapsulate it. Encapsulation dot 1Q VLAN and VLAN number what? 10. And then give it the IP address. See that? So you have to tell it which VLAN first, and then I give it an IP address. Now I'm going to create another sub interface. Okay, 20. This is for VLAN 20. Dot 1Q is the actual protocol that trunks or encapsulates. You could say in terms of encapsulation or trunking between different VLANs. So I'm going to do 20 right now, right? And this one is 20.254. All right. So watch this. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the third one, which is 30. And this is linked with VLAN 30. And then this one is going to get which IP address? 30.254. See that? Just like that. So I have 10, 20, and 30 as you see. All right. So that's the setup I have. Then watch this. I need to do this. IP DHCP exclude the address 10.254, and I'm going to exclude 20.254 and 30.254. Now I'm going to create a pool for each one. You see this? Lots of commands. I know. Let's say this is 10.0, space the mask. Let's say default router is 10.254, all right? And DNS server is all eights. Then I do the same thing for my other pool, which is 20, but this one is going to be what? 20.0, all right? And the default gateway is 20.254, and DNS is all eights. See that? Then I do the 30. And I do 30.20, right? Look at this. And the gateway is 30.254. And DNS is what, folks? 8. I'm done. Watch this. Let me look at my configuration. See, now I have a pool for every segment, for every VLAN. VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and 30. And what did I do? I went ahead and I did a sub interface, one for VLAN 10, one for VLAN 20, and one for VLAN 30. I just divided the physical interface into sub interfaces. Guess what? I'm done. All right, folks, watch this. I do DHCP. This will be 10 dot something. It's failing. I am missing something. I'm going to tell you what it is in a moment. But let me just do and show you that I'm missing one actual command that will fix this problem that we're actually facing over here. Let's take a look and see. Let me just make sure it's actually failing. And let's take a look at the last one, DHCP. So look, I'm going to be getting a people 169.254. You know why? Check this out, folks. This interface that is linked to the router has no clue about VLAN 10, 20, and 30. This only knows about VLAN what? 1. And what interface am I using here? Well, if I forgot, I could go to preferences and I could say show port labels, and I could see this is gigabit 01. Okay. All right. So it's gigabit 01. If I check the switch, watch this, folks, and I do show VLAN, where's gigabit 01? Ah, it's in VLAN 1. It only can talk to VLAN 1, but I want this port to talk to what? All the VLANs. What do? I trunk it. And which protocol do I use? Dot 1Q. So watch this. I just need to do this command. All right. Switch port, mode, trunk. If I trunk a port, that port is going to be a member of all the VLANs. Okay. So when I say show interface trunk over here, I can see here's the protocol that we talked about and which VLANs are actually going to be allowed. So now, watch this. Let me fast forward. If I go ahead and I say, there you go, look, 10.1. You see, now it's working because of that one simple command, folks. Okay, check this out. This is 10.2. Look at this. This is 20.1. See that? Now I have B for multiple VLANs, 1 and 30.2. This is perfect. This is what I wanted to actually do, right? Multiple VLANs. That was the entire purpose of this actual setup. Well, that's most likely for DHCP. Well, you saw what we did on an actual server, Cisco Packet Tracer. So we'll see you folks in our next section. Bye for now.